Welcome everyone. This quickly went from an empty room to a very full room. So nice. Okay. Well, we're gonna start things off like we normally do with a little bit of breathing. So you can stay as you are. If you're lying down, feel free to stay there. I do prefer doing this one sitting up. This is a really useful breath for reducing stress. So whenever we're feeling stress, this is a breathing technique that you can just pop 6 to 10 breaths of this. If you can do 10, that'll definitely get you there, but 6 of it will even start to change your blood pressure and really start to bring the system down a little bit. It's called a physiological sigh. Huberman Labs has been doing a lot of research on this one, and it's really, really potent, really effective. So we're gonna start off with doing that breathing technique today. So I'd invite you just to take a moment and notice how you're sitting on the floor. Is your tailbone tucked under? Is it rolled really far forward? Is it just right? Maybe you have to pull the meaty part of the butt cheeks up and out so you can feel those two bony parts sitting into the block or sitting into the cushion that you're on. And then once you feel those two bones, plug them in, and as you push them down, notice how the rest of your spine lifts. So the heart lifts up and forward, shoulders roll up, back, and down. The neck is gently tucked so that the back of it is long and it's not compressed. You don't want it compressed, you want it nice and long. Maybe the tongue is resting on the top of the mouth. Maybe the eyes want to fall closed. Or maybe the eyebrows and the tension around the eyes want to soften. Let go of some of the squeezing or gripping that might be there in the face. So holding this position with the chest lifted high, the butt bones plugged down and pushing down for a long, strong, low spine. The heart lifted for a long, strong up spine. We're going to do a breathing technique, and so the breathing technique is you're going to breathe all the way through the nose into the top, and then you're going to breathe a little bit more, and then you're going to breathe out through the mouth with a sigh. So it'll look like this. Good. So you can join in when you're ready. All the way to the top. All the way to the top, a little more. Good, we're gonna go 3 or 4 more. These last 2, make the exhale as long as you can. Long, long, long on the exhale. Good, and then taking the hands and rubbing them together. Just rubbing them vigorously, starting to feel some warmth in between the hands. Then keeping the eyes closed, or 9/10 of the way closed. Keep rubbing them, keep rubbing them. You want to feel the palms between the sensation of the skin between the hands. Good, and then bring them to stillness. And notice the feeling between the palms, and then start to separate the hands just a little bit. And notice the feeling. Are they still pulling towards one another? Is there more space? Is there tingles? What if you go wider? What if you go closer? And then playing around with moving those hands, maybe side to side, maybe more open. If there's somewhere that intuitively feels true for you to move the hands. And just keeping them in a distance where you can still feel and sense the other hand. You want it to be close enough that you can still sense the other hand without actually touching it. So for some of us that might be very close, and for others might be very far. Just letting it move, letting your body move. And when you're you're ready, you can lower the hands down to the knees and take a moment just to notice the breath now. Checking in with the spine again, plugging into the bottom, lifting from the heart, lengthening the back of the neck, making the antenna nice and long. Good. So when you're ready, I'm going to start some spinal warm-up. So we're going to start circling the spine around the plug into the floor. So circling the torso around one way, keeping the pelvis stable as we rotate around on top of it. Okay? This is really good for all of the organs. It's called Sufi grind in Kundalini. And so this is grinding, gently grinding, I'd say more massaging the organs and the glands inside the stomach. It's helping move things through the system by gently contracting and then relaxing the muscles. Also, maybe there's some part of our core that's a little bit tighter than others. When we move into that spot, it juices it a little bit and helps it relax. Like let go of some of the stuff that it's holding on to, some of the thoughts perhaps it's holding on to. A few more here. If this is feeling really good, you can stay, and then otherwise, when you're ready, transitioning to the opposite direction. In this way. Good. And bringing yourself back to center, long and tall spine. Hold at the top. And exhale when you're ready, keeping the spine long and tall. In this position here, we're going to do a few decompression breaths. So you can take your hands and place them on your low ribs, and then take your pinky finger in the shaka symbol. You're going to bring the pinkies to the top of the pelvis, the thumbs to the bottom parts of your ribs. And you're going to try and keep as much space here as possible. Okay? So as you inhale, you're going to get as big as you can. So the elbows are going to imagine that they were shooting out. Big, 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 big. And then holding the bigness, you're going to exhale and pull the belly in. We're going to do 3 more like that. Inhale, get big, big, big. And then exhale, pull the belly button in. Lengthening the spine. You're getting even taller on the exhale. The inhale makes you wide, wide, wide. We're stretching the ribs from the inside out. Push them out with the breath. And then exhale. Strengthen the core on the exhale. Nice. One more. And exhale. Should get some measuring sticks. Everyone can measure themselves on the wall. We'll be a little taller soon. Okay, ready? We're going to do some movement. So you can come into a tabletop position here. And we're going to do some cat-cows to flex and warm up the spine, and then we're going to move from this position into some core activation for today's practice. So bringing your hands underneath the shoulders, or maybe a little bit further ahead, maybe a little bit wider, depending on what feels right for your wrists. A nice strong lover's grasp in the fingers, just active enough, but not so much that you're squeezing and gripping, just active through the hands. And as you inhale, the tailbone points up, the heart points forward, the eyes stretch up. As you exhale, the tailbone tucks, the belly button pulls in, heart comes through the shoulder blades, eyes drop through thighs. Inhale, tailbone up, belly drops, heart lifts, eyes lift. Exhale, tailbone drops, belly button in, heart comes through, eyes through thighs. Flowing with your own breath, inhaling, tailbone, heart, head. Exhaling, tailbone, heart, head. At this point here, the mind might start to wander. And if it does, I'd invite you to bring it back to the breath. So really trying to smooth out the movement with the breath. See if you can breathe at the same pace and the same distance that your movement goes. So you're only moving on the exhale, only moving on the inhale. And once the breath stops, so does the movement. Might feel forceful with the breath at the start, that's all right. Sometimes, like that physiological sigh that we were doing at the start, when we take that extra sip of air, that stretches the lungs past its capacity, so we are strengthening the lungs and the muscles around the lungs to be able to pull in more air and clean out some more air that's trapped in there that might be stuck in different pockets that we don't stretch into as often. A few more here. Good. And the next time that you inhale, hold the position, hold the breath, lift the pelvic floor, belly button, squeeze up towards the brain, best you can, and then exhale the breath and relax the posture. If this is a lot on your knees and your wrists, feel free to sit back, give yourself a little stretch, any stretch that you might need to relieve the position. I want you to feel very empowered through today and all practices to do your own thing if you need to. If you need more energy, go for it. If you have some stretches you want to do, go for it. If your body feels called to do something that's different than the instruction that I'm going for, do it. That's your body telling you that that's what it needs and wants right now, okay? So please feel free at any time. All right, when you're ready, come back into the tabletop position. We're gonna activate the core here now. So whenever we're in this position, our belly is gonna naturally hang down. And what we wanna do here is activate it. And so to activate the core, we're gonna pull the belly button towards the spine. So it's almost like you were trying to pull it in. Some people use the description, you're trying to pull on a pair of pants, and so you pull the belly button in. And that's one way of looking at it. Sewing the ribs to the hips is another way of looking at it. But ultimately, you're pulling the belly button towards the spine and keeping it in. From here, we're gonna start things off with level 1, which is lifting one hand just off of the ground, keeping the belly button in. And so you're just hovering the hand off of the ground. Maybe you want to move the hand in a circle or making letters or shapes. Keeping it hovered and keeping the belly button on. You should notice this in one corner of your core. Starting to get tighter as the hand moves. And then lowering that hand back into position, transitioning the weight over into that hand that's now on the ground, lifting the opposite. Keeping the belly button pulled in. As you move that hand, you might notice some tension in some part of your core. For me, it's the lower section on the same side towards my hip that's getting the bulk of this core activation. Then you can lower the hand. We're going to go back to the other. Same thing. And maybe this time you want to practice reaching it up overhead, or maybe that's coming in, or maybe out to the side, or with a bent elbow, and seeing how all of those change the reaction in your core. But the most important thing is that your attention is on the belly button, keeping the belly in. This is going to protect your spine when you're reaching for things. And when you're ready, you can transition to the opposite arm, hovering it at level 1 or starting to reach it out a little further for level 2, depending on where you're feeling comfortable today. Next time that you lower that hand down, we're going to do the same thing with the knees. So pull the belly button in, and lift one knee. If you need to take a break at any point to relax the belly, feel free to take a break for the breath or two. So then we're lifting a knee and moving the knee. And then you're going to change sides. Maybe the movements start to bring the leg out in a similar way as the hand. Maybe you want to kick it straight back, or keeping the knee bent and getting some glute activation here. Maybe you want to pull the fire hydrant and putting it out to the side. And you can switch legs whenever you're feeling fit and ready. Biggest thing here, keeping the activation in the core. Okay? Doing really good. This is brain training. It might not feel like you're doing crunches, but it's very much working muscles that normally are turned off. And when you lower your leg the next time, if you're balanced on both sides, the next position is going to be pressing both hands into the floor, press both knees into the floor, and imagine that you were grabbing the mat and pulling it in, pulling the knees forward, pulling the hands back, but they're stationary. So this is going to be an isometric strengthening of the core. So really keep the tension there. It looks like you're doing nothing, but you're pulling the hands towards your knees, you're pulling your knees towards your hands, and the belly button is being pulled towards the spine. Good, and then relax the core. Take a nice deep breath in, and then you can sit back, roll the wrists. Just take a moment there. Really powerful for the brain. That's a really good exercise to bring in for warm-ups. If you're doing crawls, it's the same sort of motion. It's really good training for the brain. Okay? All right, we're going to bring some movement in now. So coming back into the tabletop position, if we're going to meet in a standing position. So if you have a more comfortable way of getting to standing, please feel free. Otherwise, you're going to press the feet into the ground, hover the knees off of the ground, keep the belly button pulled in as you lift your tailbone up towards the sky. Eyes look back at the feet or up between the thumbs. Walking the dog, maybe lifting a foot here and there. Maybe walking the feet in, walking the feet out. And then when you're ready, keeping your belly button pulled in, knees nice and bent, walk your feet in towards your hands until you can shift the weight, keeping your knees nice and bent, shifting your weight into your feet, and allowing yourself to come into a forward fold. Sliding the hands up towards the knees, come into a halfway lift, pause. Exhale all the way down. We're going to do this 3 more times, really practicing that big expansive breath we were working on earlier. See if you can inhale all the way to the top and maybe even pull in a little more. And then exhale it and it'll go. A few more like that. Softening through the neck on the exhale. Now this next inhale, I'm going to invite you to come all the way up to stand. Once you reach the top of the breath, take a moment. Good. And standing at the front of the mat if you're not already, you're going to take a step back with one of your legs. Coming into a Warrior One style lunge. So both feet are facing the same direction. It's like you're balancing on 2 sticks, parallel train tracks. You want your knee to be just on top of the ankle or slightly behind the front ankle. Then I want you to take a look at your hips. Notice where they're at. So you might even want to feel into the squishy part of your sides and then press down so you can feel the top of your bones, top of your hip bones. Take those and start shifting them side to side, just within the vector of your control. We don't need to push them past their limits, just exploring, just bringing a little bit of movement, this side to side, teeter-totter-esque movement. And then we're going to start to bring some circular motion in. So here now we're going to start to bring some circling in. And so maybe instead of a figure 8, maybe you're starting off with a circle. And that's okay. Circle would be level 1, and then figure 8 would be level 2. And then checking in with the breath. So keeping the movement solid in the pelvis, and check in with the chest. Getting nice and big through the ribs. And then the exhale, just not as intense as it was before, but still getting that core activation, that pulling in of the core. Whoa. Good. And then when you're ready, we're going to find some stillness and we're going to work on generating tension. So holding this position, we're going to burn out the legs a little bit. I want you to take them down, press them down, push them forward and back, like you were trying to split the mat in half. So you're generating as much force as you can in through the legs. It's called isometric strengthening, so it's really good for your brain because we don't have any additional load. We are just using the power of our mind to contract the muscles by pushing into the ground. If you want to add in the arms, you can take the hands and squeeze them out in front of you like you were an archer or a warrior taking aim. Long, strong spine. Invite in that decompression breath. Really, really big. Really, really strong. Inhale gets you big through the sides, big through the wides. Exhale gets you long and tall. Keep that pressure nice and strong. And relax the pressure when you're ready. Releasing the tension. We're going to transition to the opposite side, so reaching the arms up and forward. Transition if you want to. Come in, play for a balance for a little bit. And then when you're ready, squaring it out. And we're going to come into the same thing the other side when you're ready. So again, taking all the time you need. If you want to play in that balance, give her. And then settling into the same thing on the opposite side. Train tracks. Get a nice stretch in that back leg. Check in. Squishy soft spots down towards the top of the bones. You can also do it on the bone that sticks out from the sides if that's easier. It's a similar sort of thing. We're just watching for that teeter-totter movement. And touching ourselves can give a little bit of awareness as to where our body is actually at in space. So then starting to bring in the teeter-totter, the side to side. Waking up the brain in that capacity. Maybe it's tight in some areas. Maybe we need a little bit more hydration there. And then when you're ready, you can start bringing in the circles or the figure 8s. Teaching the pelvis to move independently. And while it's moving independently, if you keep your heart lifted, this will allow your shoulders to relax while the hips move. Because every time your right hip comes forward, your left shoulder also comes forward. There's a reciprocal movement that happens. Okay. And when you're ready, find some stillness. Hips are level, pointing in the same direction. Press the foot down into the mat and push it down and forward, and then the back foot down and back, generating your tension. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Get as long and as strong as you can. Trying to firm up on the top of the thigh, firm up on the back of the thigh, calf, the legs, the butt, the hips. And then when you're ready, if you want to bring tension in for another level up, you can squeeze through the fingertips, strong through the hands, strong through the elbows like they were squeezing a beach ball in between them. Underneath the armpits, it's like you were juicing a lemon. Strong, strong, strong. Inhale, getting big, big, big. You're pushing the ribs out. Trying to get as big as you can. Exhale, tall as you can. Inhale, pushes the ribs, stretches them out. Exhale, tall as you can. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze as much as you can. Inhale. Good, and then if you want to do one or two more, feel free. Otherwise, you can relax the tension, bounce it out a bit, and then when you're ready, reaching forward, coming into a balance, or stepping right on through and shaking it out. Good job. So once you get to the stop, we're going to do some Tai Chi twists just to shake some of that tension out. And we're going to now move some of that tension that we generated through the rest of the body. Okay? Good. Shake out the legs if you need to. I don't know about you, my calves are feeling that one. Okay, so from here, you're going to stand back at the front of your mat, and you're going to pick one leg, step it backwards. Okay? Just like we were before. This time, instead of pushing down and out, we're going to actually push down and in. So even just doing that with your mind, you'll notice completely different muscles. It's more on the inside of the thigh, more on the back of the front leg. Okay, so it's like a scissoring motion, like you were trying to pick something up with your feet or squish the mat towards one another. Really, really strengthening for the pelvic floor. Checking in, lifting the chest, getting nice and tall. Good. And then the inhale, you're going to push the feet down and forward. So you're going to transition. And then the exhale, you're going to pull them in and up. If you want to use your hands to express with this too, feel free. The inhale, you press down, forward, down and back. And then the exhale, you pull the legs towards one another. Good. So this is less about tension, more about training the breath and the movement to go in harmony. Good. And then if you want to switch it up, the movement, as you inhale, the arms can come back. As you exhale, the arms can scoop forward. Or press forward. Whatever feels right for you. The same principle applies. The inhale, the feet press down and out as you get wide and big. And then the exhale, the feet scissor in. They come in together as you get long and tall. Good, and if you can keep that focus on your legs while your hands are moving, man oh man, that is a full brain massage. Okay, one or two more here, friends. And then when you're ready, we're going to transition again as we did before, reaching and transitioning the weight forward into a balance. And then when you're ready, you can step on through and finish out, or stay in the balance for as long as you wish. We're going to come into the same thing on the other side. Simply join in when you're ready. So you know what's coming now. We're going to play around with the pushing, play around with the pulling. So we're keeping the low part of our spine, low part of our brain engaged. And then we're going to add in the hands. So maybe the hands will want to feel the upward motion that we were doing. Maybe it wants to do the outward, scooping in, or the pressing out. See what your body wants and feel free to let it express that way, okay? So here, as you inhale, pressing the ground down and out. And then the exhale brings them in, scissoring the feet towards one another. So the inhale, the feet press down and out. The exhale, the feet pull in and up. The inhale, the spine gets wide and short. The exhale, the spine gets skinny and tall. The inhale, the arms come out and expand. The exhale, the arms come together and compress. Three big pieces to think of that bring the brain all the way through the body. You should be able to see the movement in your foot as it shifts, pushing the ground away or pulling it in. You should be able to see a gentle shift in the skin as it's transitioning its power. One or two more here, and then when you're feeling ready, transitioning the weight forward, coming into a balance pose, or stepping right on through, and finishing yourself out with any movements that you see fit. Maybe some Tai Chi twists. Whenever you're doing the Tai Chi twist, it's really good to keep your knees softly bent. We don't want the twist to get trapped in the knees. We want it to feel very nice and fluid and free, moving from the hips, from the low spine. And this really can help shake out all the tension. Might even feel good too to let your ankles kind of express the motion too. So maybe you come all the way up and maybe they're still touching on the ground, but it's that same sort of expression. Okay. Really good job, guys. That will feel very weird in your legs for the next little bit. It's a lot of brain stuff, okay? It's really, really nutritious for you, and especially if you drink a lot of water later. We're gonna bring ourselves down to the mat. So if you wanna do a flow or two, feel free. We're gonna just finish out with some stretching before our last Shavasana. So make sure today you can drink a lot of water and you eat some good nutrient-dense food. This will help your body integrate a lot of the shifts it's made today. Okay, so when you're ready, you're gonna bring both knees up towards the sky, soles of the feet on the floor. Just to adjust the pelvis here, keep your hands down on the mat. Inhale and lift the pelvis up towards the sky. And exhale, lower down. We're gonna do that 3 or 4 times. This just helps balance the pelvis if one side's higher than the other. If you notice any shaky parts as you're moving, nice and slow with the breath, just know that that might mean maybe it feels good to spend a little bit more time there. Maybe it's a little bit more constricted than when one stopped. Okay. Level 1, you're going to cross the ankle over the opposite leg and press the ankle into the leg for stretch. Level 2 is bringing the knee up towards the sky. And level 3 is lacing the hands around the knee, pulling the knee in and moving the knee side to side or in, just to really get the stretch into the back of the hip, the glute. I'm a big fan of moving gently and slowly and with like small little micro movements, they could be called. I'm a big fan of the micro movements when we're stretching. I find that's the easiest way for my tissue to trust me and to relax. Good. And keeping the legs like this, can lower them down. Maybe it feels good to let them fall to the opposite side so that your foot, that's the ankle on top of the thigh, is now the sole of it is on the floor. Maybe that feels good. Maybe not. Maybe you don't want to do that. That's okay too. Good. Maybe it feels good to adjust that knee. Maybe it feels better to pull it closer to the ground or press away. See what feels right for you. And then when you're ready, You're going to bring it back to center. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So level 1, resting the ankle on top of the opposite thigh. Level 2 is lifting that knee towards the sky, and level 3 is clasping and moving it gently to get deeper into the stretch of the hip. And if you'd like to, twisting that over to the opposite side. And then when you're ready, transitioning back to center, extending the legs out, using the arms and heels to adjust the spine. And then invite you to take 3 more physiological sighs here. So in through the nose. I really appreciate you showing up for yourself today, for doing all these powerful brain exercises, for stretching, moving, and connecting to yourself so that you can go out there and share a brighter, smoother, more centered version of yourself with all those you encounter. There's a space in you, and there's a space in me, and when we are both attentive or conscious in that space, together we are one. Namaste. If you are one of the yogis that needs to get out of here right at 12:50, that time is now. If you have a little bit more time, I would invite you to stay for as long as you wish. And I hope you have a lovely rest of